The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, a question for you. How do you feel about the Chinese restaurant shut down for serious sanitary violations, now opened right now, tonight? How were the corrective actions taken and what were they exactly? Also tonight, an uptick in cane toad sightings. We have some safety tips for you and your pets. This story has a lot of you talking. In fact, all weekend, the mysterious and unfortunate death of a 16-year-old student of St. Augustine's High School in Panama while representing the school. We get into it this evening. It's all straight ahead tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, a Chinese restaurant that was shut down by health officials for serious sanitary violations is open tonight after what authorities describe as corrective actions taken to address multiple infractions. Jose Etienne has the latest on the restaurant's reopening and what health inspectors are now saying about its return to operation.
That business did meet the requirements to open their doors again.
That seems to wrap up an investigation into the Farrington Road restaurant, which landed under scathing scrutiny over health and safety concerns. But the underlying issue here is enforcement. But Dr. Patricia Johnson, Director of Food Safety and Quality, says officials made the right call.
We want our consumers to be assured and have the confidence that these businesses are doing what they need to do to make sure that when they eat, they're not going to have a foodborne illness, or something even worse happen to them.
Let's address the elephant in the room. How often will inspectors pay a visit to this eatery to ensure its operators stay in line? That remains to be seen, as it seems to hinge on consumers speaking out.
If there is a complaint, we may go back. We have three types of inspections. We have the complaints, we have the annual, we have routine. So what we want to do is we want to get those complaints out of the way and we want to get those annuals out of the way. So we encourage people to register to get their annual inspection done. And of course, when the complaints come in, we work on those as well.
The Chinese restaurant is just one of several businesses that were dealt with by food inspectors who say they're carrying out an aggressive inspection exercise.
It's probably under 10. It's probably under 10. It's not anything more than that. But we would have inspected at least between 30 to 50 businesses. And like I said, it's a slow process.
Conch salad vendors are also on inspectors' radar.
Conch salad stands have been really an issue. What we have done, besides creating a lot of information pamphlets and making that available to vendors, when we go out on the road, and there are a lot of food businesses, there's over between 4,000 and 6,000, so of course it's a slow process. But whenever we go out, if the team has time, they do what we call a registration drive to get these businesses to register with us.
There you have that story. A lot of questions still really tonight on exactly what were these corrective actions? You see, because people are skittish. I spoke with some people who often ate there, and while some want to go and say, listen, if they cleared it, then let's eat. And others are saying, but cleared it of what? Now, I spoke with the reporter even moments ago who did the story, Jose Etienne, who said that there were just animals. That's all. That's how the officials said. Animals found around the property, on the property, issues with the roof. I guess overall cleanliness and overall sanitary conditions in the kitchen in particular where the food is prepared. I want to bring in the Hot Topics panel right there because by the looks of that, what we saw there that looked like it still was closed today, certainly that needs an entire facelift, and not just facelift. I'm talking external and internal. It needs, what do it need to do? First of all, Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Beyond the Headlines contributors Leslie Miller, Garth Roseborough, Michael Turnquest. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you all here.
Pleasure to be here. Good evening, Bahamas.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Can you hear, Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Good to have you here. Gentlemen, your thoughts on the fact that this restaurant has been given the green light, the stamp of approval to reopen. By the looks of those videos captured earlier today, not sure if it is. However, the point is, though, I mean, could they have cleaned up from the ceiling and the roof to the animals found and the foul odor and all the rest of that in that amount of time? And then truly, the question asked in the report, what is the maintenance and the inspection record and time? It can't be once a year.
Probably less than that.
I am almost certain that one of the things that I've learned through my years is that as Bahamians, the one cleaning agent that is always in our home is bleach. And bleach has a way of sanitizing and making most environments smell quite hygienic. And sometimes you wonder when you go into some of these foreign owners, their food stores, and their restaurants, there's always that odor that feels as if something in there is dead. You know, it's a very peculiar smell. And it happens in most of these foreign business people's establishments. And you wonder if this is a part of the code of the people that inspect these places, because I have stopped, Shanique Miller, eating at places like this from years ago. There are speculations, there are assumptions, people have rumors, but you could never say that they're not true just based on the smell. And so for those people who love these establishments, love this type of food, we know that you're excited tonight that it's open again. And you can have it all if you'd like, but as for us, we would like to see stronger health codes maintained in our country, please. But that's why you don't eat Chinese food.
Michael, I think you're muted. You're muted.
No, I'm not muted. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So Shanique, you know, it's good to see that, you know, the Ministry of Health they're moving around. Like they said, there are many eateries throughout the Bahamas and New Providence especially. You know, I think, you know, kudos to the health team in terms of, you know, making sure after getting complaints they go and do the necessary inspections. You know, anyone can be at fault in terms of certain infractions that may be required, whether it be, you know, not having proper pest control in place or contracts with various a reputable pest company to make sure there's no roaches running around in kitchens, or even just inside of the you know, inside of the restaurant dining area. You know, also people say, you know, bleach kills anything. You know, bleach is also is not always the best thing, especially when you're dealing with customers and having a strong bleach scent throughout an environment, and where customers inhale that. You know, so that, you know, there's many other products out there can be used. You know, I can speculate in terms of what they will close down for unless that report is revealed. You know, we can speculate all day. When someone say animals, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, we're not talking about dogs and cats, as, you know, we normally speak to when we hear this particular nationality. But, you know, at the end of the day, it could be because of rodents, dead rodents found throughout an establishment. You know, we've seen other businesses that would have had infractions like this sometime in the past. But, you know, there are things that you put in place and regular maintenance where you have either once every 2 weeks, you have a reputable company coming in and, you know, putting down the rat. Once there's food, you're always gonna have things as it relates to rodents that you have to try and do your best and keep that routine maintenance in place, whether it be once every 2 weeks, a company coming in and setting the right traps, putting down rat paste, spraying for roaches, to just keep those things away and ensure that, you know, at the end of the day, the worst thing any restaurateur want to see is, you know, a customer's coming in on a roach just pop out of nowhere. You know, that's something that's, you know, it's not unheard of, but, you know, it's something that as a restaurant owner, you would definitely be, if you're not ashamed, then of course, you know, you don't need to be in that type of business.
This is a situation that keeps occurring. That was just a year and a half ago, the Reef restaurant that many of us used to go and have our lunch, breakfast, dinner. closed down after they were shut down by Ministry of Health and Environment. It's a very serious problem that a paying customer would go into a restaurant and serve, I guess what you could call already, the best term you could say is garbage. What normally happens in these instances, if they would have fired one of the staff who would have been complaining about it, the staff would then go and call the necessary representatives to look into the matter. That's the case that most people, they would go along with it, the workers. But the Chinese make it a point. People always complaining that they believe that they're eating animals. I mean, rats, cats. It's almost hysterical, like the president of the United States, Trump. Remember the election game with the Haitians eating the rats, the cats in Indiana, and all this other foolishness, right? But it is a national hazard that they should put a more effective team on the streets, throw the letting breath of our country, to see to it that what we are paying for is edible on a decent meal. Because let me tell you, it's difficult to get a decent meal except in the fast food restaurants. I'm tired of them. But they're the only place you can go to find, what they serve, chicken or hamburger. The small restaurants, you don't know what goes into there.
Yeah. Michael, you are in this industry. How often are inspections done?
Yes.
So of course, every year you have to apply for get a health inspection, as well as you get your employees. You send them, and they're certified by Ministry of Health. But I mean, sometimes Ministry of Health might just randomly pop up, and I think that's what's needed. That's what's needed,
exactly.
Because at the end of the day, anyone can schedule. Anyone can schedule a visit, and then all of a sudden they're all cleaned up and ready for an inspection. Yeah. And then as soon as that health inspection leaves, everything goes to shambles.
Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead. What you say?
No, I'm saying, anyone can be, can request a health inspector to come out. But that when you have things that happen, people are normally ready. They're all cleaned up, expecting someone to
exactly.
To
so
come
you
in.
should not request a health inspector. They, as you said, they
Every
should
3
just
months,
pop
every
up.
quarter.
Exactly, and not
Every
once a
quarter.
year either. Not once a
Which
year
they
when
do.
your
They
license
do
is
randomly.
due.
They do randomly pop up, and they'll pay, and they said, we're here to inspect your kitchen, and you have to be ready to let them in. It's not come back tomorrow.
And Mike, looking at the exterior of the building, it looks to me like little or nothing has been done with the exterior. The parents is really not enlightening or enlightening. I don't see much being done there.
Yeah, and one thing I tell people in the business, I believe in what you present on the outside is key. I mean, at the end of the day, things like your bathrooms, your outside, making sure that's clean and clean and ready for people, inviting the people.
Exactly.
If the outside looks horrible, you can imagine what somebody with a kitchen might look like.
Absolutely, and this is exactly the thought that comes to mind. An uptick in cane toad sightings have sounded the alarm of officials after its initial discovery some 6 years ago, posing a fatal risk, mostly to animals and typically non-life-threatening injuries to human beings. Experts are warning residents to keep a close lookout for the invasive species. Now, General Manager of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, Dion Gibson, issued the safety protocols for those who may encounter the frogs.
They have now been seen on New Providence as far as, I want to say, Seabreeze area. Of course, there have been some developments in eastern New Providence as well, so they could have likely came from there. But for the most part, the central parts of the island don't really have any issues. A pitchfork or something long like a pitchfork, even a fishing spear, you could use that to try and kill it at a distance. If you're going to handle it, make sure you have on latex gloves, put the animal in a Ziploc bag, and then you can put it in the freezer, which is the humane way to euthanize reptiles and amphibians. And so that would be the best course of action. But if you're afraid, you can also throw a wet towel on them, and that'll stop them from moving. The cane toads, as you know, are an invasive species typically brought in through exotic plants, coming through Florida or even Central and South America. There have been some inspections in the past where we have seized entire container loads of of plants because they were discovered. And these are the type of efforts that will be ongoing through the likes of BAFSA and the Department of Agriculture and Environmental Health whenever discovered. But the advice I would give to residents would be, as normal, be cautious if you have pets that live outside or feed outside. Don't leave the food outside, because we know that if those cane toads go to food, because they're attracted to food sources, if their toxins get into that food, it could cause seizures and even death in small pets, dogs, cats.
So again, quite interesting and scary, especially for your pet. Gentlemen, I understand, I was speaking with Linton earlier, and he says that the frogs have made, their cane toads have made their way from west. They're still in the west, but west to east. And you heard
How do they travel? How do they move?
I have no idea, but they've made it to the sea breeze area. I thought what size are they? I would
think they're probably about 6-8 inches at
6
least.
inches, yeah.
They're huge, you know.
They're pretty good size.
They're huge.
You're to Florida, are they?
They're like spring chickens.
Yeah, but I've not seen them. Like I live in a swampy area like Adelaide.
Yeah, Adelaide, yeah.
And I hear frogs croaking. They almost sound like sheep or like goat at night. They're huge, right? But I've never seen them. And so, like Shanika's saying, for them to go from Adelaide, Clifton Pier area to Seabreeze or out east.
How did they get there?
It takes me almost an hour to drive that far. So I'm trying to figure out what type of frog these is, man.
Maybe they catch a ride on vehicles.
Yeah, and then to think that they're attracted to food sources, I think as Bahamians, that's one thing we need to pay attention to when we feed our dogs. I do it sometimes
put
too.
Food outside,
we leave the dog food outside. The dog may or may not eat the food, and these cane frogs will come and eat the pet food, as I'm
But
understanding.
are you saying that a frog eat dog's food?
That's what
it sounds like
to me.
it'll eat the food, any food, any kind of food, and attack the pet.
Flies and
no,
mosquitoes
not these ones apparently. And they would attack the pet as well, and then you
attack the pet.
Well,
the skin is poisonous. If a dog bites that frog, the toxins in the skin is actually poisonous to your pet, especially smaller pets that can actually kill them. So you have these little schnauzers, little poodles, and also toy dogs. Those are especially in danger. The larger dogs and the pot cakes, they may get away with just a little bit of sickness. But Shanique, this thing is turning seriously into a problem. I think it's something that's going to have to be addressed. Those people who are in this industry in terms of capturing this type of species, we got to find out how we can trap these frogs and just go ahead and just eliminate this issue. This has to be eliminated.
I agree. It does have to be. And the thing is, the Bahamas are so vulnerable because we import a lot. I remember with some palm trees some time ago, there were reports of poisonous and toxic snakes coming in, and just so many other things can really enter our nation.
We also have to keep in mind, even our marine life, we're still battling the lionfish that's invasive to the Bahamas.
Very invasive.
Everything is invading the Bahamas. What the heck's going on?
Yes, everything. Everything want a piece of paradise. But listen, when we come back,
the snakes that they found in Apco, the poisonous snakes, we had none but that since
again, they're coming in through these exotic plants and whatnot. But when we come back, it's really a serious story that's still shaping up and unfolding in Panama, involving a 16-year-old Bahamian girl. Beyond the Headlines is back after this.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
Running out of space? We've got room for that. Welcome to Skyline Storage, your trusted self-storage solution. Skyline Storage offers units from 5x10 to 10x30, climate controlled or standard dry. Perfect for home or business. Located in Westfield Commerce Park, Western New Providence. Your belongings stay safe with gated access and 24/7 surveillance starting at $175 a month. Reserve, pay, and move in online. No phone calls, no paperwork. Visit SkylineStorage.com. Skyline Storage. Storage made simple.
Are you ready, Bahamas? Get up, get moving, and and join us at IL Fit Fest. Saturday, November 15th at the University of the Bahamas playing field. From 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're talking a variety of fitness vendors, free health screenings, and $10,000 in giveaways. And for the kids, we have a Kids Zone. And entry is absolutely free. Don't miss the IL Fit Fest.
The race to 2026 is heating up, and the nation's voice is louder than ever. Here on Beyond the Headlines, we're checking the mood, the momentum, and the message of the people. I'm Shanique Miller. Each week, we're taking the temperature of the electorate to see what's really driving the nation. Who's connecting? Who's cooling off? What issues are heating up ahead of 2026? This is Temperature Check 2026, where journalism meets the nation's heartbeat.
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. One 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
An investigation is underway into the death of a 16-year-old girl, Madeline Thompson, a student at St. Augustine's College, who died in Panama. While Bahamian authorities have not released an official cause of death, Panamanian officials say foul play has been ruled out. Laurencia Smith has the story.
Details surrounding the death of 16-year-old Madeline Thompson remains unclear. This after a suspected Panamanian news outlet reported that the teen fell to her death from the 27th floor balcony to the 12th floor. Authorities, however, remain tight-lipped on the death. Meantime, the tragedy leaves more questions than answers tonight, as officials say best efforts are being made to have the St. Augustine's College student body return home. She was representing the country at the first Global Robotic Challenge.
So in contact with our honorary council in Panama, who's spoken with Panamanian officials and who's spoken with the family.
Director General Ali within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs providing the media with the latest details, saying the ministry is working closely with event organizers and Panamanian authorities. Young Madeline was a parishioner here at St. Joseph Roman Catholic Church. She was described by the pastoral team as a kind-hearted individual who volunteered every Saturday in the church's soup kitchen. Now, yesterday, Mass was offered in her honor by Monsignor Alfred Culmer.
I was able to pray with her mother on Saturday in Panama, Shanique, and so we offer the Mass today for the family.
Ali did not provide a timeline for when Thompson's body will return to the country. She says she wants the public to know that the ministry is doing their best to assist the family while respecting them during this difficult time. She also emphasized that there is a due process that must be followed.
We have a death of a Bahamian national or somebody who's hospitalized. We go through official channels, so we go government to government, and we have strong ties with Panama. So in this case, it's easier. Sometimes it's more difficult when we don't have representation.
Now, the student body of St. Augustine's College held grief counseling sessions on Monday. Laurencia Smith, Eyewitness News.
Gentlemen, I want to bring you all in. It's quite unfortunate, she was there. We saw the video of her representing St. Augustine's and as well as the Bahamas. And for this to happen, when I read it yesterday, I was stunned by it. And then, of course, as the story continued to unfold, as really it's not much we can say right now, but it's just quite unfortunate for how that happened. I imagine joyfully leaving the Bahamas to go and represent her school, and then that.
Oh boy. It's a very sad moment. I'm from St. Augustine's College, and every time we lose one of our fellow soccer, we feel it. We actually do. We have a lot of pride at that school. The fact that she had the intelligence level, the knowledge and skill set to even explore something like robotics means that her future was incredibly bright.
Yes.
And to have lost someone of this nature, someone who would be able to go and have programs like SpaceX brought to the Bahamas in the future, take us into the technological age, digitalization, it can go on and on and on. This is the type of citizen that we are trying to groom and prepare our country for greater things. And to have lost this one, it really hurts Shanique Miller.
If anybody have anything, I can just move on with this, but our thoughts and prayers to the family.
And prayers goes out to the family. You can just imagine her mother, I'm told, was in Panama at the time of the incident. Her father was here in New Providence, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, you could appreciate a young 16-year-old going to represent our country on St. Augustine schools with her friends there, on such a great educational mission for the future, and ends up in such a tragic accident. You don't know what to say except that may God rest her soul.
Amen.
May she rest in peace.
Condolences to her family.
Member of Parliament, we're going to shift gears now. Adrian White is facing public scrutiny tonight after a video of him went viral over the weekend.
Yeah.
The footage has drawn mixed reactions. Some are calling it troubling, while others dismiss it as being overblown. Linton Ritchie Jr. has the story, and then we come back and give some thoughts.
Adrian White under the dirt off of his shoes onto a Progressive Liberal Party poster on Friday amid celebrations of the Golden Isles by-election nomination day. Critics across social media sounding off, questioning if the sitting MP actions were appropriate and warranted, and others noting it's simply disrespectful. F&M Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands acknowledging the criticism, but emphasizing with the current political climate at an all-time high, the narrative can be spun, creating political mischief.
This was something that was on the ground. He made an issue of stepping on it. There certainly was no vandalism involved.
Now, it's not the first time White has found himself under heavy criticism in recent times. Back in April, on a local talk show, White deemed F&M voters as, quote, sensible, citing every constituency has voted F&M except for Angliston. Hannah Martin emphasized persons in the inner city constituency, which she represents, were offended and took it as they were not sensible. White sought to set the record straight, making it clear, quote, those were not my thoughts. White has not been the only political figure to find himself at the center of controversial actions. Back in 2012, then Prime Minister Perry Christie displayed a derogatory hand gesture, and recently leader of Coalition of Independents Lincoln Bean apologizing after publicly throwing out accusations against the character of F&M leader Michael Pintard. Chiming in, a reported front-runner for the Progressive Liberal Party candidacy for St. Anne's, Keno Wong, denouncing White's actions.
He sits in the halls of Parliament. He has demonstrated his cowardness by walking and stamping and using it as a what? a doormat.
The political hopeful telling Eyewitness News his choice to speak out is not for political brownie points, but to simply address the actions of those who were elected to serve.
It's not just a political aspiration situation. It is based on the integrity of an individual that we put in the halls of parliament.
Previous PLP St. Anne's candidate Chris Saunders, whom White defeated, also condemning his actions in a Facebook post, calling it childish. Now, while Saunders dodged Eyewitness News questions on if he believes White is right or wrong, he sent this message to his political colleagues.
We're not enemies. We're all being, we ought to be looking for common ground.
I'd like to know your thoughts. I mean, I certainly, if he had teared it down, perhaps put graffiti on it, then there would have been the problems. But I think he was just really being mischievous, seeing a sign on the ground and wiping his feet on it as to say his opponents, the sign of his opponents. Your thoughts on this and how this took its own sort of, the wind beneath this issue just took its own direction over the weekend?
I think what we see here is an effort for social media presence and brownie points. Everyone is turning into an actor, everyone is performing, everyone is seeking some form of attention in order to garner some type of support from the base of each party. This is what I call a base move. A base move means that you do what it takes to energize your base to make them feel as if you're in a position of victory. And so the mere fact that he saw the sign on the ground, he just basically took advantage of the opportunity to try to gain some type of favorability from the surrounding individuals as a base. The same antic was played when they threw the mace out of the House of Assembly. Yeah. You know that wasn't necessary. That had to have been planned, but it was something to once again energize the base. And so you'll see a lot of this type of activity, whether it's going to be caught on social media or mainstream media. These are the antics that are played during the times of election. I noticed that Darren Pickstock had a number of signs in Adelaide. They were every 15 feet. And by the time I got back there the following evening, there was only one sign left out of maybe some 40 or 50 signs. And so the game that is played unique at night, when everyone else is sleeping, is you remove the opponent's sign and you throw them away. And so you're going to see signs being torn down. As a matter of fact, I've sat in spaces where the conversation has already come forth that Darren Pickstock has these signs that are 8 by 16 and a good 6 by 6 posts. We can't wait till by-election is over so we can get that wood to put on our house.
That's true.
And the same thing happens for the F&M and the COI. You will notice as soon as the election is passed, or even before, those signs are coming down and someone is carrying them home. This is just the Bahamas and the way things are done, unfortunately.
Shanique, we have this is not the first time, I'm sure, doing the silly season. This isn't going to be the last time we see something like this. I think no matter what political divide you're on, is it right or wrong? Some might say no, some might say yes. I won't get into the back and forth of that. But one thing, leaders, political leaders, and those that are aspiring to be leaders, they always need to remember that they're under a microscope, and there are also people that either look up to them and expect and hold them at a different level. Standard. And I think and you've had mature political leaders who have stepped forward. Then they know they've made the mistake, and whether they apologize, and did the right thing by apologizing. But you have to always remember you're under scrutiny, and that that will carry you on for the life of once you're in frontline politics. But at the same time, one would say that all these signs you see all about the road, roads doing either an election or by-election. The one thing that we always realize after an election is that sometimes these signs never move. And, whether it be the paper signs, and then they become flying objects just flying around the road. And, this is one thing any political party that they need to always remember. It's easy to put signs up, but also remember when it's all said and done and the election is finished, remember to take your signs down.
I find the young man to be a gutsy little fella. He got little cojones, because in Parliament he did the same thing. And it didn't surprise me that he would have walked on it, because as far as he's concerned, this is a declaration of war. It's war against the F&M versus the PLP versus the COI, and this is wartime. So you try to destroy the warrior that's coming after you. I don't think he meant anything by it. It's, you know, he got caught up in the moment. His emotions was running high. The fans were there. So he decided to get some play. That's what I take of them, you know.
That's right.
Walk on them. We can walk, you know, we can walk on
I
them.
think so too.
That's all it was.
I don't think it
You know,
was anything. I feel anybody would have done something similar.
Yeah,
Anyone would have. It's
That's
on
a
the ground
regular brother.
already, and so you walk on it, and you just happen to be captured, and you just make a post. Like it's your opponent, you know.
I believe he knows a lot of fellas from the inner city, you know. And he act like them sometimes, you know. He act like a brother. Yes.
Thank you. I wish we had this photograph. I'll tell you this.
I love the guy.
I don't know. Adrian. I don't think Adrian meant anything by that.
I know a lot of guys from that city.
Guys, I have to move. I will move this forward now. By the way, thank you to the Humane Society that sent. Now I have an idea of how that cane toad looks. It is a big toad, tell you that. It's a big toad. Thank you very much, Humane Society. Still talking politics, though. The Davis administration is facing pressure tonight as political commentators say recent efforts in the constituency the governing party is hoping to keep on its side highlight how officials weaponize elections. This as the party's candidate also seemed to imply that those residents were in dire need of representation. Here's Jose Etienne with the story.
I am running because I am tired of people being ignored. That is why I'm running. I am tired of people calling for help and getting excuses.
Critics argue that the governing Progressive Liberal Party's by-election candidate, Darren Pickstock, was biting the hand that feeds him as he addressed scores of party supporters last week on nomination day.
I am tired of seeing our communities wait years for the simple things. A fixed street light, a paved road.
Perhaps the expectation was for Pickstock to laud the governing party's work while promising to build on what was laid out. But not only did he speak candidly, according to a PLP press release, he also spoke from a standpoint of accountability and responsibility. Critics might go as far as saying, though, that he inadvertently threw Golden Isle's former Member of Parliament, Vaughn Miller, under the bus as residents have long expressed concerns about unmet expectations and neglect that now cast a shadow on Miller's legacy. For residents, it would be hard to not see the roads that have been recently paved in the area as a campaign pitch with a by-election on the horizon. Nonetheless, the candidate wants to prove why he says he's the right pick.
Next 24 days are everything. We've got to move like a family, like a team, Golden Isles. Every call you make, every door you knock on Golden Isles, every conversation you have, Golden Isles, it matters. That's how we're going to win this thing, Golden Isles.
But another overarching concern here is whether the Davis administration is weaponizing the upcoming by-election by using government machinery as a campaign tool, and whether the ongoing infrastructural improvements in Golden Isles could be scrapped if an opposition candidate wins.
We all remember what came before: neglect, stagnation, and cost of program that were helping Bahamians. The other side stopped, they reviewed, and they canceled, and the Bahamian families paid the price. We cannot afford to turn back now.
Those are relevant questions, given how the country's leaders spoke during the 2023 by-election, which ultimately swung in government's favor. Perhaps a scare tactic against the electorate.
Well, they should vote for him because, first of all, they'll not be voting for a voice that will be in opposition. They'll be voting for a voice that will have the ear of the government.
We want to work and support the people of West Grand Bahama, and they need an advocate that can call any minister of the government and have their phone answer on the first ring.
The by-election is expected to go down to the wire. The FNM's candidate, Brian Brown, is campaigning on his continued presence in the area despite losing in the 2021 general election. Pickstock is promising to address years of inaction with the support of government, and the coalition of independents is looking to take down both major parties. Jose Etienne, Eyewitness News.
Well, gentlemen, a lot has been made of that, the comments that Darren Pickstock made in terms of neglect. He says there's been neglect. He spoke broadly, but people say no, no, no. They kind of zeroed in that one word into Golden Isles. We'll talk about that when we come back. Was he referring to the former Member of Parliament, the late Member of Parliament? More in a moment.
Bahamas is the premier destination for fly fishing because of its unique geography.
We've got the third largest barrier reef in the world in the Bahamas.
We have the largest aggregation of mangroves in the Western Hemisphere.
Which simply means we've got the largest marine biodiversity than anywhere else in the world.
I am unapologetic about Bahamians being owners in our #1 industry.
We should not just say it, we should have it enacted into certain policies.
The Bahamas Fly Fishing Industry Association was instrumental in the 2017 sports fishing legislation. Anyone fishing in the Bahamas who's going to be guiding has to be certified and licensed, and thirdly, they have to be a Bahamian.
And that is historic in that a model of conservation and a model for Bahamianization has been legislated, the only one in the country.
But it also gives Bahamians the opportunity with a sense of pride to know that at the end of the day, I'm contributing to the development of my country and something they can pass on for generations.
The out island of Bahamas, there are no other alternative industry that generates the kind of revenue that fly fishing does. The entire community benefits.
I would always encourage the tourists, people who want to fish, hire a local guide.
The guides in the Bahamas are some of the best trained fly fishing guides in the world. You know it because you see the results in terms of the kinds of fishing they're doing. They're catching the largest bonefish, the largest tarpon, largest permit. That is unique. So this is the lure to all the anglers internationally coming who thinks of the Bahamas as #1 destination for fly fishing and saltwater.
I'm really excited about this initiative that SPTC has brought forth for the fishermen.
If you have great guides and terrible boats and engines and nothing working and all this, you could be the best in the world. And people still have a terrible experience because they could not have a good day on the water.
I think one of the greatest things is to have access to quality capital. But not only having access to the capital, but terms and conditions related to the capital, so we encourage growth and expansion of the industry and professionalism within the industry because of the resources being at hand and having proper guidance.
It'll be a greater impact and they'll have a better experience.
And I foresee it being an opportunity that the guys are taking advantage of in terms of the opportunities for education, awareness, and resources. You always need to advise people, inform them, and then equip them. And so I think this process is essential because it allows the skill sets that are needed in a changing economy and environment, how they could then keep up with operating their small business.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. 1 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
Still on Golden Isles, as political tensions heat up in the Golden Isles constituency ahead of the upcoming by-election, Free National Movement candidate Brian Brown on nomination day called out what he says are tricks by the governing Progressive Liberal Party. Brown criticized the timing of recent projects, as you saw in that story just before the break, being undertaken in the constituency, noting it's a cry Golden Isles residents have had for years. And so why now, he asked, Brown pleading his case to the electorate, noting from his view, the option is clear for who would be the best representation, citing his portfolio and priorities for the community.
Now the PLP hopes you'll forget all of that. They pick someone of thin air, someone who doesn't live here, doesn't know our struggle, and won't change a thing. He ain't loyal to Golden Isles.
No, sir.
He's loyal to Philip Davis and the PLP. He's just looking for his opportunity. He is campaigning straight from the PLP playbook. He show up before an election, pay a few roads, hang out for a few contracts, take a few pictures, and hope you forget their bad ways. The devil is a liar. Golden Isles is not for sale. I don't slap up. I work. And I have a plan. When you send me to Parliament, I'll fight every single day to make life easy for families in Golden Isles. I'll push for better infrastructure, safer roads, reliable drainage, proper street lighting. I'll champion small business as we create real jobs right here at home. I will work with our police. I will work with our churches and civil society groups to make Golden Isles safer for our children and families. And I'll fight for better health care, education, and social support, not just for some, but for everyone.
Okay, gentlemen, there it is. The BC, of course, we saw a moment ago, the PLP's candidate in the Golden Isles by-election, and now the Free National Movement's candidate in the Golden Isles by-election, both speaking quite spirited about exactly the direction they're headed in and the direction they want to move the Golden Isles constituency in. Your thoughts on what we witnessed just a moment ago? Of course, this was from Friday, but I take leads oftentimes from the newscast before me. And so your thoughts on what both men had to say?
Yeah, both men are spirited, and I'm only jumping in because I know time's against us, but
yes.
As you look at both individuals, the question that comes to mind would be, are we selecting based on leadership, based on party, or based on the contribution of both candidates? As of now, Brian Brown has been on the ground for 8 years. He has been working. His office has never closed. But Darren Picksock has now shown up and done some miraculous things in terms of paving roads, visiting some families, fixing some homes, and basically he's answering the call of Golden Isles at this particular time. Here is what's happening, Shanique Miller. When the by-election happens on November 24th, one or two things is going to happen. If the Progressive Liberal Party candidate wins and he continues to do the work that he's now doing, he has to maintain that momentum up until the general election, which means that the people of Golden Isles will benefit from all of the infrastructural changes in Golden Isles. If Brian Brown wins this month, then it simply means that we will have to wait until the general election for his effectiveness in terms of this level of injection that we're now getting from the Progressive Liberal Party. And so we have to make a decision now. Do we benefit now and possibly later, or do we simply stop the benefit now and hope to get the benefit later? This is the conversation that we're now having. This is what Golden Isles will have to figure out. As for the COI, we're just watching them just to see, you know what, you're there, maybe you'll be a game changer in this one, but until then, it is what it is.
You know what the senator mentioned in terms of, Golden Isles being neglected. It almost seems as though it's coming from, I would say he's referring to the former MP. And, I know the area somewhat because I would have, whether it be assisted the community because of, business relations in the area, and I know the current MP to do, working in the community in terms of doing cleanups and things that he would have done while he was, in power and alive. They say a dead man can't talk. At the end of the day, was he given the resources to put into Golden Isles? I'm pretty sure the only thing that he had was his campaign not the campaign, but the yearly funding that's funded by the government, and Golden Isles are very big areas. That can only go so far. You know, one would then say it's very interesting that, you know, and I heard the gentleman earlier say that, you know, would this, you know, it's one thing to do. We need to stop treating Bahamians as if, you know, they are pawns, because, you know, you can't just do something right before election and then after maybe you select that person, and then, you know, a year or 5 years go by, and the area is left basically like a ghost town again. So, you know, I mean, Bahamians are now not falling for the antics as it relates to, you know, Bahamians are due. If once you're elected, you should be working for your people every day, not right before election. 2 years before election, you know, where they'd be going to Parliament and telling, I don't care if it's a prime minister who governs your party, that, hey, my people are down there suffering. I need roads paved. I need it's flooding in Coral Harbor that's been affecting Coral Harbor for years. There's a lot of things that happens inside, you know, throughout the communities in Golden Isles. And, you know, these are things that we need to stop playing the politics, because at the end of the day, I don't think that, yes, okay, if you could select Darren Pickstock, yes, there's some things that are going to happen between now and November, and maybe before the general election, but what happens after the general election? You know, this is where we need to stop both parties, you know, we need to stop playing with Bahamians.
But Michael, we already know what happens after general elections. We already know this. The situation is that because of the by-elections, we're now getting this attention. You recall that the previous minister was also a Free National Movement member. What was done right before that election that was so significant? There was nothing significant when he was at FNM.
I'm speaking party politics in general.
This is what I'm talking about. I'm saying, so right now the benefit belongs to Golden Isles, and as we are benefiting, we will make a decision based on the benefit now and a possible benefit before the general election. Because we know after general election, what normally happens, we don't normally get any attention at all. That's what we're saying.
You know, I will always defend my friend and brother, late Warren Miller. Let me say, over the last 4 years, I had the privilege of working very closely with him, Dave and I. His area is one of the cleanest areas in New Providence. He did a lot. He stopped the coal burning that was being done in that area. He got rid of the slums that were causing serious problems for the residents in his area. The migrants that went down there and built houses without approvals.
The shanty towns.
Shanty towns, he cleaned them up.
The swimming base.
Let me say too, that people must remember, including the good gentleman who is running in his seat now as the PLP. Warren Miller was a member of the cabinet. Warren Miller made requests, and his cabinet colleague, the Minister of Works, to have those roads done. And he's putting pressure on them to have it done. Now, obviously, because of the by-election, it's going to be done now. But, you know, I don't want you to try to degrade my friend, or to say that this was done because of you. It was done because the government decided it will be done, and because there's a by-election. Okay, but Warren Miller would have been the one who would have made those requests. For you, you're getting a break because it's being executed while you are there trying to be the next MP for Golden Isles. But, you know, I would hope that you all don't go on this wicket of trying to degrade the contribution that he would make on behalf of people. He's the only MP in the last 30 years that was able to win 2 straight under the FNM government and under the PLP government. That speaks for the type of person he was, a Christian man, a family man, and one who had love in his heart for Bahamians everywhere. And I will always defend him as long as breath is in my body. That's all I have to say right now.
And that's why I say, you know, let's not be disingenuous to a man who can't speak on behalf of himself.
No, okay. I'll speak for him, and I will defend him at every time.
Gentlemen,
like I said, I'm familiar, and I know the cleanups that took place.
Decent human being. Yeah. Nothing but love in his heart for everybody. And he doesn't go and brag about what he did. He just did it. You know? So let's just keep it right there right now.
Gentlemen, I thank you all very much. Of course, I want to get to tomorrow evening. A part of what that show is going to look like is a situation that's broiling off mainland Exuma. the Rosewood Exuma Resort. Really, ground was broken over 2 months ago, and that's all that ever happened. Why? Because that fight between foreign investors, one of whom doesn't want the project to move any way forward, exactly, is trying to stop the other one who wants to hire over 200 Bahamians and empower them and help make jobs and business happen. And so that is happening there. It's now an injunction, so the resort has not moved one step since they picked up the sand and tossed it over. Nothing has happened. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, but I want to thank all of you. Of course, Leslie Miller, Garth Rosborough, Michael Turnquest for being here this evening. We had quite an interesting and big mix of topics this evening. I thank you all very, very much for being here. I also want to say a big thank you to all of you for tuning in this evening. Thank you so much for hanging out. I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.